All right, welcome back to SUB-CLE. Today we got Richard Reed and we have Erika Kunath. Richard Reed is the owner and operator of Griffin Cider House in Lakewood. It's over in Birdtown, and Erika Kunath is his bar manager. So thanks for joining me today, guys.
Good morning.
Thank you. Hey.
Richard, I just wanted to know, so Griffin Cider House. So obviously you're not from around these parts.
That's right. I have a foreign accent, don't I?
And I was just tell me a little bit about yourself, like how you ended up in the States and how you ended up opening up a cider house gin bar.
Right. Well, the reason I'm in the US is because my wife is American.
Okay.
We actually met in North Carolina, and decided after a little hiatus in the UK to move here. The reason I'm actually up in Cleveland, though, is because I at least used to work for the Cleveland Clinic.
Okay.
As a medical laboratory scientist. I've actually since moved from there to University Hospital, so
okay,
kind of defected to the other side yet again. First of all, left the crown. But during my years at the clinic, I actually started producing my own hard cider, or just cider as we say in the UK. And through my first company now, into my second, that evolved into a bar that initially, at least for 1 year, had its focus primarily on cider, cider by the draft and bottles and all of that. But ever since its conception, we always wanted to have a strong focus on gin too, at least be the only bar in town that would have a fine gin collection. That was based upon several things that I was hearing. One, first and foremost, was my mother was always is still actually a gin drinker, and that certainly influenced me. And along with Scotch gin is my favorite spirit. And there's just not a lot of people that really understand it or really work with it. And then we just started collecting more gin at the bar, and I started bringing on more professionals who know a lot more about how to work gin,
right?
Especially people like Tim Harnett and Adam Akoff. These might be familiar names to you, and several others. I'm embarrassed. I don't. I'm not able to put all the names out at one go. And we started to come up with lots of really great cocktails. To the point that after about 6 months in the cider, we were doing a stronger and stronger focused craft cocktail menu. Within a year, our sign went from Griffin Cider House to what it is today, and that is Griffin Cider House and Gin Bar. We were doing about 70% in draft cider sales, and the rest was cocktails and a small amount of beer.
Right.
Today, that has switched to about 70% craft cocktails, about 30% cider, and that's definitely the way things seem to be the way they need to be. Really, it's definitely the money maker.
Yeah.
We have all styles of gin represented. We have the large collection in the Midwest now, numbering at, I believe, 140 gins.
Oh, wow.
You can't even get that many in the state anymore, because the way it works in Ohio, unfortunately, it's a gin comes in, or any spirit really, and the state decides whether it stays or whether it goes.
Yeah. And
there's many gins that have not stayed, and we've managed to get the bottles when they're available and then keep them. We do have our gins now. We have them labeled as rare, common, or very rare, and that will reflect the price.
Yeah.
If we're getting very low on a very rare gin, you got to have some serious money to be able to get it. And that's just the way it is, because once that bottle is empty, we're down one gin, and we simply don't want to do that.
Right.
But that's where we're at right now. And we are numbered, I think, number 4 in Cleveland, top cocktail bars, I think about a year ago in the Cleveland Top 100 or something.
Well, I got, I'm impressed every time I go in there. I think I remember, it was a cider thing, and then I didn't realize it was a gin bar until a little later. I think it evolved that way then, right?
Correct. Yeah. And there's been some very, very important key players that helped make that happen. And still key players today, like my manager right here, Erika, have helped this evolve. Definitely have a family at the bar.
Yeah. And Erika, where do you come from? Like, what is your background with bartending?
I actually got my first bartending job 2 days after I turned 21, so it'll be 10 years I'll have been bartending in December. Okay. I've bopped around from a bunch of different places, did a bunch of different styles of bartending. Like I said, my first bartending job was out in a Bowling Green at a sushi bar. And it really wasn't bartending. It was, hey, you're 21, make drinks. And I thought, Dr. Pepper and whipped Pinnacle was a cocktail. We've come a long way. Yeah. But this is my biggest foray into craft cocktailing at Griffin, and it's been a great experience. And it's really, it's been fun to get creative and work with Richard. So
that's cool. Like, and Richard, I was just wondering, like, when you were in back in the Queensland or whatever.
The UK. Okay. Queensland's in Australia. Yeah. A lot of people ask me if I'm Australian.
Oh, the Crown, you said. Yeah. Were you like into craft cocktails then? Were you bartending then, or was that just something that you acquired when you?
Nothing of any note, really. Yeah. I mean, at one point I was. I guess I worked in a pub, just doing dishes and spilling food on people. But no, any craft cocktailing I'd ever done was really done at home or in my student digs when I was at university. Mm-hmm. And in a way, I was that guy who would have all these, they'd say, weird drinks in my collection in my student digs. So they wouldn't know what the hell blue curacao is, and I'd have it there. And I would come up with like random drinks. I'm sure most of them were pretty crap. Yeah. I didn't have any skills. I just sort of self-taught. It wasn't until I got again the professionals in that I actually really started to dial things in. Though I did always enjoy more simpler gin and tonics and something called a pinker, which is pretty much just gin and bitters. Something that my mother would drink. Still does, and so I took after her because I'm proud to say I'm a mama's boy, no doubt about it. And yeah, I would borrow the gin, and tonic.
Okay, so, Erika, I was just curious. So in Bowling Green, what's the craft cocktail scene there?
Oh gosh, it's
like you said,
non-existent.
It's probably what do you call that with the Jameson and the green tea shot?
Oh yeah, green tea shots, stoplight shots, Long Island. Shush. Listen, you can take the girl out of Bowling Green, but craft cocktailing in Bowling Green is not very big. I mean, it's more about volume. I mean, it's a college town. Like, you're not going to get a lot with craft cocktails. There were a few places that are unfortunately not there anymore that did some things with cocktailing, but they're no longer, unfortunately. Yeah. Most of my craft cocktailing has been here in Cleveland. So I've been at Blue Sushi in Crocker Park. I actually opened that restaurant back in 2019 with that crew. I've been at Bourbon Street Barrel Room doing cocktails there. And then, like I said, this has been my biggest foray into doing my own craft cocktails at Griffin.
Nice. That's cool. And, I'm so intrigued with, people from other countries because, I work for an airline for a lot of years, and I've gotten to see a little bit of the world. And it's like, if you don't travel anywhere, you think, you're kind of I'm not going to say brainwashed. You're
become somewhat limited in your worldly understanding of things. Yeah. Well, I still get asked questions now, like, am I from London? The worst is Paris in London. And I'm like, I'm still unsure how that came to be, but I guess the guy had never left his state, let alone his town, probably.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, once I started traveling around, it's like, you hear like the American, we're fighting for freedom and everything. And, when I was in London, and just all over Europe and wherever, people seem pretty free. And I'm just curious as to how you see that. Like when Americans say they're fighting for freedom and we're the greatest country in the world, and that's what you think. You think when you're younger, you're going to go to Europe and it's going to be some at least second world or something. You know what I mean? It's not going to be as nice as America, but it is.
Oh yeah,
not nicer. You know?
In certain ways, here and there, there's things that are better over here, things that are better over there. It all levels out in the end. I mean, there's the internet, as much as it's brought everybody a little bit of a library of intelligence and stuff, it's also brought a library full of bullshit. So I mean, people are educated by memes, it seems sometimes. So I tried my best to sort of re-educate people. I do a lot of cooking, for example, and I definitely focus on British food because people have this stereotype which is just false. Maybe I'll cook you something up one day, who knows. But there's things which the United States could definitely do better.
Well, yeah.
It's all subjective, I think. In terms of what's better, and it depends for who as well.
Yeah.
I'd say the UK is just as free as the United States. You can get in trouble for certain things over there. You can't get in trouble for over here. Definitely, there's certain forms of expression. Go into examples, which you definitely can't do in the UK. You can get in trouble for, whereas over here it's just like, the worst is going to happen is a person might get doxxed.
So what is that? Like, what would that be?
Well, if you put anything in the form of that could be regarded as hate on the radio waves, you'll be in trouble.
Oh, is that right?
Oh yeah. Police will respond to that.
Okay.
As well. Oh yeah. And I don't want to really give an opinion about how I feel on that. But that's one of the things that's different. Whereas over here, people can just do it. And that's got its own problems attached to it.
Right.
For sure. And then it's got problems attached to it on the other end, where it's in the UK. Some of the things I do and don't miss from the UK that are different. And I was just back there, right?
Yeah.
And I totally forgot.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah. Yes, it's been 5 years, and I totally forgot about this. After 11 o'clock, especially in the countryside where I'm from, where you got a load of towns and things and villages and such, there's nowhere where you can get a bloody drink after 11. Yeah. And I mean, these towns will be of like maybe 20,000 people in some cases.
Yeah.
But there ain't nowhere you can get a drink. It's all pubs, and pubs are closed. They're done.
Right.
What you'll experience is a total difference in night.
Yeah.
You'll look up the sky and you see utter blackness or tons of stars, especially on the hills where I used to venture. Whereas over here, hey, if you just get off your second shift job, which I work the second shift at UH, hey, I can go and get a drink.
Right.
I could go hook up one of my mates and get a drink. That's, you're not going to do that unless you're in a big city in the UK.
Right.
And I'm a country boy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have stayed long in a big city. I mean, I live in a suburb now, but that's something which you find is quite different. And again, that's subjective. If you like that kind of thing, it's good. If you don't, then it's bad.
Yeah. So, I'm just curious too, because you're in the medical field, and like what you do here, because a lot of people say like the taxes over there are more, and you're getting, obviously people get free healthcare, but you also have private healthcare as well. Would you be able to do as well doing what you're doing over there as you would here?
Yeah, in fact, possibly better.
Really?
The people who work in healthcare are actually taken care of incredibly well. They make good money. They have a structured pay system though. And it brings it here. I noticed that this might make me unpopular. That physicians sometimes get treated as very godlike.
Yeah.
Sometimes depends where you go.
You're saying here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of the physicians are the best people in the world. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
And
like any group of people.
Yeah. And some of the pathologists I've worked under, I'll always go back to if I need a reference or if I have something which which I'm curious about. I found something on the scope that's in somebody's blood.
Yeah.
I know exactly who to talk to. Whereas in the UK, they are a rank and file.
Yeah.
They're definitely very high rank and very well valued and such, but they're paid, from what I gather, pretty much a set amount. And private care is a bit different. We do have private healthcare in the UK as well.
Yeah.
How much better it is than the socialized medicine we have, the system, I couldn't tell you. I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
But when I was living over there, our system was pretty good.
Yeah.
And I gather it's gotten better. I mean, it's definitely had its ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it works with our tax system in the UK is it just comes out with taxes. I can always remember the first time I got a paycheck, and I just went through this with my son because he's about to start his first job at 16. Because nobody's prepared me for this. I said, you're going to get your paycheck, so right now you're thinking, hey, I'm going to get this amount every 2 weeks or whatever. Don't think that.
Right.
Because I did, and then I saw the what happens when the taxes come out in the national insurance, and you feel like you've been kicked in the balls, and you're like thinking you've been cheated somehow. And yeah, they take a chunk out, but you have healthcare from cradle to coffin, and you can pretty much go into any of these places, and you have your insurance card. Right.
Well, and you think about it here, people are, I mean, if you have a job, you're a middle class person, you're paying for that healthcare anyway. I mean, people are paying $300 to $800, I don't know, depending on if you have family members or whatever. And, you're paying $300-400 a month. I mean, that's a pretty heavy price, and if you really put that in with the taxes, is it really whatever? I think it's like 6 of one, half dozen of another kind of thing, I don't know. It's just having your health insurance attached to your employment is kind of strange,
It is. It's definitely a weird concept for a lot of people over here. I'd say the nicest part about it, though, having experienced both systems, is you don't pay anything when you go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that's always got me is I know how much I pay for insurance every month or so, and then if I do have an issue, I go to the hospital and I still have to pay more money.
Right.
And it's like, well, shit. And I know what some people don't have to pay.
Right.
And I'm like, well, that sucks.
I know, it's strange. It's strange.
How come my deductible's like this? Whereas if you have national insurance like they have in the UK, then that's it. You just show me a card, they have your number, and you go and see the doctor, then you just piss off.
Yeah, I had some friends, a couple Irish girls, and they were living in London, and I just remember telling them about, and we were just talking, and they just thought it was such a crazy thing that like a hospital would even have like an accounting office or something.
It's
a billing office.
It's become that way.
Yeah. Okay, so well, let's get back into talking about cocktails and stuff. So you switched from you were doing cider, so you still make the cider now? Is that?
Oh no, I stopped making cider quite a while ago now.
Yeah.
There's been murmurings about it coming back, but I feel that COVID's pretty much put an end to that, especially with me putting more focus into healthcare. So I just don't have the time. And I could never make cider again anyway, not whilst running the bar. You can't do both ends of the business unless it's all made in-house. That's the law.
Okay.
But no, I stopped making cider the end of 2016. Okay. And I still have a few bottles here and there. I'm a little scared to open them. 2 reasons. One, they might taste like crap. They probably won't, but also once they're opened, that's it. I'm down just like my gin.
Yeah.
The expensive stuff or the rare stuff, once it's gone, it is gone, and getting another bottle might never come around. But yeah, we stopped making cider then, and gradually built up our cider portfolio to mimic what Griffin had back in the day, the best we can. So our West of England style cider, like Burley Man and Griffin Original, was replaced by Shaftesbury. Shaftesbury Dry specifically, and some of their other offerings. They're very, very close to what I used to make. Okay. It's what we always recommend. And then some of the French varieties too. We did have at least one French style cider at one point. It's actually a Perry, so pear cider.
Okay.
We are going to do some more stuff with cider in the coming months, because that is still one of our disciplines. And there's only really Arsenal Cider House in the neighborhood that really does anything with cider.
Right.
In fact, Bill was the person I was talking to about resurrecting Griffin. I'd have him make my cider, but that was pre-COVID.
Oh yeah.
I flirt with the idea about maybe talking to him again, reigniting that, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So work.
So Griffin Cider House was an existing business that you just.
It was from March when we bought the building in 2015, all the way through till
so
January.
That's an original business. Okay. So yeah. Okay, because I got confused when you said you wanted to stay true to the original, but. Okay. Yeah. Your original idea.
Yeah. The idea was a cider house with a strong lean to gin. You'll even see on the window signs it'll say fine gin and spirits.
Yeah.
I mean, gin is a spirit, but we kept it separate, and that's been up there since the day we opened.
Yeah.
Because we always wanted to have a good collection. Actually, Stefan was from Porco, and Andriana, they both helped me sort of get my first gin collection going and put up there, and because I was clueless how to do it really.
Yeah,
I mean, I knew what I liked to drink.
Right.
Still to this day, I don't like the title of gin expert. I say I'm a gin drinking expert. Okay, I don't even want a high pedestal.
Difference. Yeah, right.
Difference. Yeah.
So on the menu. Let's go into that. You have a new menu going out, rolling out?
Oh, we do. Yeah. It's we launched that actually whilst I was on vacation. We call it our curated craft cocktail menu. It's actually returned to something that was originally conceived and launched by Adam Acuff, who now works at Western Reserve Distillery. It's a lovely wood-bound menu. Quite large, and it's got all kinds of craft cocktails in there.
Yeah.
Not just gin, but mostly gin.
Yeah.
Again, there's something nobody else is doing in the city. I don't even think in the state.
Yeah.
And it's got lots of features, and it is definitely something which you need to experience. We've Eric actually did a hell of a lot of work on this one. We've actually separated it into different disciplines almost. But one of the bits I'm most proud of for that new menu is the build your own G&T. A lot of people just think gin and tonic. They've never experienced gin and tonic if they think that. It's 2 ingredients, easy cocktail. No, not at all. There's our crafted gin tonics. They could be like 3-4 ingredients depending on what the cocktail is. I mean, they might have liqueur in there. They might have 2 different gins. They might have a blend, a tonic and a soda. So it's called a gin sonic is the fancy term, or not really fancy, cool term, I suppose. And when you've got 140 gins to choose from, other little gin-like things as well, like Northern Aqua V, which it's not a gin, but it's juniper in it. So we kind of like shoehorn that one in there. It'll be okay. It's really, really cool. You can pick your garnish, you can pick your tonic, of which we got, I think, like around 20 different tonics and sodas that go well with gin.
Somebody once said, I know it was Joe DeLuca told me, like an old fashioned, it's not a recipe, it's a concept. So I think that's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. And the way we enjoy our gin and tonics, especially for somebody that's going to want to experience the gin, it's only a few true psychos drink gin straight, and myself, I'm one of them. Erica does right here.
And was it originally meant to be drink?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I think there's some debate about it. I believe so because the goal was to make an alcohol that wasn't rough,
right? And
up until that time, that there was no column distillation, no way to get all the impurities out except for lots and lots of runs in kettles, which is just impractical.
Yeah.
And then of course sitting things in barrels would work, but people don't have time to wait. They want their booze, and they want to get like fucked up quick.
Yeah.
So I believe the idea of adding botanicals was to make it more palatable, a bit more smoother.
Right.
And juniper was one of those botanicals, and that probably evolved out of the Roman apothecaries using juniper water preparations.
Yeah.
And some of the traditions, and then eventually techniques, winding up somewhere in Belgium before the Spanish came in, and whoever they were back then, I don't know if they weren't called Belgians, so they were in that area of the world, fled to what is now Holland, and some say that people went to Spain as well. Those are the two countries which have the strongest claim to the original gin.
Okay.
The Dutch have Geneva, or Geneva, which literally translates to juniper.
So, and that's, it's gin's a little unique. Well, kind of like vodka, whatever. Well, vodka is just something that's not finished, I think, is my, they just didn't age it or anything. No, but gin, it doesn't meet like bourbon has to be made in America, where Scotch and it has to be made in Scotland, but gin.
It depends on the style of gin. There's certain restrictions.
Yeah.
PGI does exist. PGI is basically a geographical indication, so it has to come from a certain place if it's named this. Plymouth Gin is one notable example that most people have seen, though I think they might have just lost their PGI. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but
PGI.
Yeah, it basically means the gin has to be made in this place, and these requirements. I can't remember what the P stands for, but it's geographical indication. And then there's a Lithuanian gin as well. I can't remember the name of it. I've never had it. I know that. That was a requirement there in terms of location. London Dry Gin, which is the most common gin you're going to find.
Yeah.
That does have some requirements on how it's made. You have to distill the spirit up to 190 proof before you bring it down to no lower than about, I think it's that depends on the country, 37.5 in the UK. Here it's 40% ABV. And I think juniper has to be the forward ingredient, and it must use alcohol from an agricultural source.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't go to the Smirnoff oil refinery and take ethanol there, or wherever they make over at MPI. There's that. Geneva does have requirements, I believe, depending on what style of Geneva. The Oud or Jansch Geneva, there's percentage of malt wine and neutral spirit you have to use to make it. Modern gin or New World gin, things like Hendrix are a member of that, and then Aviation, of course, is a US brand. They're very, very loose on what they classified as. In Europe, there was some fight recently over what you can call gin. There was some push to basically it could be anything. They didn't even have to have juniper in it anymore. I'm not sure where that's going. I would hate for that to be a theme, because gin is one of the original spirits for me. It's how we make money. I don't want it to be just some kind of weird flavored vodka or an aquavit.
So a lot of people, when I'll recommend going to the gin bar, and get a lot of, I don't care for gin, and I've heard I've heard, if you don't like gin, you just haven't found the right bartender, kind of thing. You may have said that to me, or something, So explain that. Like, what is it about gin that people, I think, are what are they missing?
Oh, well, everything, of course. Gin is a whole whirlwind of flavor, and there's so many different types. I mean, you're limited by the amount of different botanicals that won't poison you in the world, pretty much. That is it, and there's an abundance of plants, and seeds and roots and spices, and more new distilleries are popping up which are utilizing native botanicals. Now, traditional gins have always used things that were brought in via the spice trail and things like that. And then, of course, for the various different empires and their trade routes. But you're getting some small distilleries, like ones out of India and some down in Brazil, which are really focusing on stuff that's coming from their area. There's an Argentinian gin that uses mate, for example.
What is that?
Mate is like it's just a plant that they use for making like a tea.
Okay.
I'm wondering if anybody in Peru will make a coca leaf or mate gin, because they can do that in Peru. Cause
I thought you were going to say ayahuasca.
Oh, they use that down in for the altitude sickness, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're limited by the different flavors, and there's doesn't seem to be an end of the varieties. There are standards, and what we're expecting. Juniper should always be there and prominent. That is the note, and it just blends so well with a lot of different ingredients.
Well, it's just, with nowadays, like, everything's flavored. You have cinnamon whiskey, which is ridiculous to me. But once you have all these different flavors of vodka, how is that really different than gin if you take away the juniper or whatever? You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, you could say gin is juniper flavored vodka.
That is right. I mean, one of the jokes we used to say behind the bar back when we had a much smaller collection was like, if somebody said, "Oh, I don't like gin," it'd say, "Oh, don't worry, we've got 50 flavored vodkas." And that was always a laugh, I think it's the how delicate the notes are. And with flavored vodkas, you tend to get a big hit of whatever the flavor is. That is the focus. Whereas gin, it's lots of different nuances, lots of different things going on.
Mm-hmm.
And you can, even though drinking gin straight is not the common thing to do, but if you do just taste it when you put it to your mouth, you'll be getting different experiences throughout the palate. Flavored vodka, strawberry all the way, peanut butter all the way, chili, dead cat.
Well, and it's a flavor that is very distinct, whereas all these different botanicals that are going into the gin, and that I know Kettle One isn't that Nolet's? Is that,
Kettle One, a good quality vodka. Yeah,
and then the botanicals they have. How would you say that differs from a gin?
Well, they actually
besides a juniper,
they actually are trying to sort of kind of push into the gin market in a way for people that don't like juniper.
Yeah.
People don't like juniper. The same people that say, "Oh, it tastes like Christmas trees."
Right.
Or I had I had gin when I was at university once, and I can't do that anymore. And so they've had some kind of really rough spirit, probably. I won't name the brand, but there's one that comes to mind. Really, they're getting close. They're definitely getting close. It's about picking out the notes and what will stand out in the drink. For me, I still want to have that sort of bitterness of the juniper.
Yeah.
I want to have that those notes that juniper gives. And juniper itself, depending where it's grown and even the age of the juniper, can present a bit differently.
Right.
And in different amounts. It can be somewhat more delicate. We definitely do see a lot more of the ladies enjoying the gin.
Yeah.
And that makes sense because the ladies have a lot more taste buds than men.
Is that true?
That's very true.
That's true.
Take my word as a scientist. All right. They do. That's why men tend to gravitate towards more bold flavors.
Okay. Like IPAs and big.
Whereas the ladies, there's more super tasters who are female in the world. So it works because
sommeliers,
women
I'm
are
sure.
Exactly. Women are much better at it than men. I mean, not to say a guy can't sort of be trained in that area and learn to use his palate better. But I think people like to be able to pick out bits in their cocktail.
Yeah.
And with a gin, it becomes much more of an experience with each go. Even with your flavored vodkas and the more delicately flavored vodkas, there's still a more heavy baseline with that stuff, which takes over the drink.
Right.
We did a really cool Negroni tasting with Diageo. It was a private staff meeting, and we tried, I think it was 4 of their gins as Negronis. And I gotta say, I wasn't expecting a huge difference. I expected the Sevilla, which is an orange for a gin. It's a fruit gin. Okay. I expected that to be one that would stand out more, because it's quite strongly orange. It's almost like a flavored vodka, dare I say it, but it's not. It's not. It's got a lot more going on.
Right.
And I thought, the Tank 10, the Rangpur, they'd probably be pretty similar, and the regular Tanqueray would probably be around there too. But no, they all stood out uniquely. I was the only one that liked the Rangpur best.
Yeah. Go ahead and tell everyone about a Negroni.
While
Negroni? You're at this. Yeah.
Okay, well, that was a drink originally created for, I think his name is Castelliccio Negroni. He was in Italy, and he ordered an Americano, which was a very popular cocktail back in the day. Except he didn't want it with any of the prosecco, and he wanted to have vodka put in it to give it a bit more oomph.
Right.
Except they didn't have vodka; they had gin. So they put gin in it. They gave him the Campari and sweet vermouth. And that's how the Negroni was born. It's named after him.
All equal parts.
1 ounce, 1 ounce, 1 ounce.
Yeah.
You go for a good quality gin. I actually particularly like a broker's gin for my Negroni.
Okay.
And then an ounce of Campari, and then an ounce of sweet vermouth. Though my preferred sweeter vermouth is one that has a little bit of bitterness too, called Punta Mes.
Right.
And that's our house Negroni.
Okay.
We offer that on our menu right now, the Griffin House Negroni. It's definitely a drink which you would kick back and take your time over.
Yeah.
It does have the bold flavors for sure, so it works well for both the guys and the girls.
Yeah, well, it's such an, I guess you could say, an intricate flavor. You know, it's real. First time I had a Negroni wasn't a Negroni; it was a Boulevardier.
Yeah,
which is bourbon. And it was just like so strong. I'm like, what is going on here? And I think then I had a Negroni, and I've had experienced it, and it's like you said, it's got those bold flavors, but with the women with the more taste buds, it is very complex as well. So you were saying that you sampled all these different. You made them all different, and you weren't expecting the outcome of.
I really wasn't. No, yeah. I mean, I'll let Erika sort of chime on this too, and how she felt about it. But yeah, given how I've enjoyed the Tanqueray line before, I really didn't feel that they would overcome the Campari so much. Because Campari is a very, very strong flavor. Yes. A lot of people have struggled with it, but again, just like with gin, they just haven't had it right. Yeah. They haven't had it right. We haven't. And a Negroni would be probably not the best place to go if you're against a Campari as a baby step. You probably want to go something a bit more discreet,
right? And
then gradually get you into it. That's exactly how we do gin as well. Getting people to drink gin, we give them something entry level.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I did not expect them to cut through the Campari as well as they did, and they all did. Yeah. And like I said, the Tanqueray Rangpur was one for me. I was in one that would gravitate toward that the most. Most people like the Tank 10 or the Sevilla.
Right.
But yeah, it was quite cool to see how gin, even though it has all these little light notes and discreet things going on, it still has one heck of a punch to cut through ingredients. I mean, you can vary
especially
gin,
those two ingredients.
But with that, with something like Punta Mes, which is quite strong in flavor, and Campari, I was very pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I've seen where people have used Chinar in lieu of the Punta Mes, and I mean, then that even just really that Chinar's that artichoke liqueur.
Yeah,
and Amaro. Amaro, so we need to know your your input on when was the first time you had a Negroni?
First time having a Negroni was actually at Griffin. Not when I started working there, but as a patron. So first time having a Negroni. I unfortunately don't remember which gin it was.
Right.
But I do remember how strong it came across at first, and I love bitter flavors. So I was like, oh man, this is It's different, it's new, but it was good. So that was my first time having a Negroni. And then he's correct. When we did the tasting with Diageo, my favorite was with Tanqueray 10.
Yeah.
It's very bright. It's a citrus-forward compound gin, and I just liked how it worked with the vermouth and the Campari. Did they use Puntames with theirs too, or no?
I don't think so. I think we used a Carpano Rosso.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Because he's also trained me to enjoy the Puntames as my my vermouth of choice as well. Because he knows I like bitter.
Yeah, I think that's become popular. I think to use in a Negroni, even in a Manhattan. I've seen that used. So we started talking about the new menu rollout, whatever. Right. And I noticed that you do have a pretty extensive classic cocktail list on there, which, I mean, how do you feel like, I don't know, but I mean, why did you feel that was necessary actually to put on the menu when somebody, if they know what they're talking about, they could, you know what I mean?
Well, first of all, I'll say that, we do have a classic section, and we actually combine it with our Griffin House classics. So it's things that people have always come to know and love from our bar, but also the things which are classic, like from the 30s, like the Bee's Knees, the Aviation. And I think, and those are still some of our best sellers.
Yeah. I think people, see classic cocktail, at least I do. And it's, if you're not familiar with it, it's like, whoa, I need to learn a little bit. If this is classic, this is status quo.
It's
right?
classic. It's classic for a reason. Yeah. It stood the test of time, and people are still drinking it. I mean, and there's an ebb and flow to how popular they are. Like the Aviation was very popular in the early 2000s. It's still popular now, but not as popular.
You think that had to do with the gin or the brand name?
That may have brought it back a little bit. Yeah. Aviation Gin is my favorite gin to use.
Oh, and that show too, Mad Men or whatever. I heard that popularized a lot of.
There's certain brands that have definitely done well because of TV shows or celebrities and things like that. Yeah. They're classic for a reason. They stood the test of time. But the other thing to note is, I think it's up until the 1960s. Gin was still the most popular spirit to use for making cocktails. The backbone of the cocktail world is based upon gin. The original Bloody Mary didn't use vodka; it used gin. Now they just call it Red Snapper, but correctly, the original.
Same with the Cosmopolitan. The original was gin.
There you go.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I guess just people. Why do you think it fell out of popularity?
I'm not too sure, really.
It had to have been some kind of marketing push by Absolute Vodka or something, or I know that the whole James Bond story too with the what is
Shaken Not Stirred,
right? Well, that and the Vesper Martini was his original, and then there was like some kind of marketing thing, and the vodka, I think it's Stoli, said, "Oh, it's got to be a vodka martini instead of a Vesper."
In fact, there is a lot of marketing. I mean, a couple of industries have been hit because of newspapers. Even I mean, gin took a hit in the late 1700s because of newspaper depiction, something called Gin Lane.
Yeah.
Mind you, the kind of gin that people were producing back there was absolute garbage. And same with absinthe. Absinthe got a bad rep because of the wine and brandy industry, cognac really, attacking it. There's nowhere enough shown in absinthe to make you start seeing things. The alcohol will take care of that well before the food does. I think maybe just people wanted just change and wanted things to be more basic, perhaps. I'm not sure. But it's definitely seeing resurgence. There's a lot more people making gin now. Some people are just making gin because it's an easier product to get started when in the early days of your distillery.
Yeah,
you don't have to do any kind of aging. But also there's some distilleries like St. George's that really put a strong focus on their gin and do an incredibly good job. And they do a lot of other things too, but they take very good care, make sure they're making a top product. Even the brewery Dogfish Head, I'm sure you're familiar with them.
Yeah.
when they approached making their spirits, they wanted to make sure that what they produced was a legit product, not just a product to fill the line so they can make a little bit of extra dough. And they made a gin, and it's expensive. And I might still have a bit in my private collection. I have about 90 different gins you can't get in Ohio that belong to a private group. And that gin is about $70. It's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of attention to detail with the product they make. I hope Ohio gets it one day.
It seemed like Hendrix got really popular and kind of that. Where do you think that came from?
Well, they definitely helped the gin industry as a whole, I'd say. I think they just had the right backing. They really got their name out there. They had cool sort of steampunky graphics and ads. And one of their pushes, which actually there's a company that predates them that did the same thing, New Amsterdam. They do now make a London Dry, but their regular gin was a compound gin, which is essentially an infused vodka. They pushed that it wasn't strong in juniper. That kind of idea that's a bit smoother. That now we have the technology with column stills. We can make a smoother spirit. You don't need these botanicals to take off the edge. Okay. There's some people say gin has an edge anyway, which it does, but I can't imagine how much of an edge spirits had before that. But Hendrix carried on that too with cucumber and rose, things which people know are going to be softer.
Right.
Now, although juniper still is forward in Hendrix, it's married with several other ingredients which kind of tone it down just enough that a gin drinker is happy, and newbies can be happy too. So our entry-level drink for anybody wanting to try gin after they're saying, I don't like to taste Christmas trees, or I had a bad experience when I was at university, is the drink called the Spa Day, the upgraded Spa Day. And the upgraded Spa Day includes Hendrix Gin. Hendrix, a elderflower tonic, and Saint Germain, which is an elderflower liqueur. Beautiful drink. People who are highly experienced in gin still enjoy it too.
Sure.
It's very good for everybody.
Yeah. Nice. So the menu, so you have some original.
Yeah.
Some I'm just wondering where you guys, and like Erika, you're not talking too much.
Richard is taking the floor. I mean, like he's the one that knows more than me, so that's fine.
I'll let her talk.
Yeah,
she works at behind the bar more than me. In fact, I haven't worked behind the bar for about 6 months, probably. Maybe 4.
Yeah, it was less than that. But.
Yeah. Well, I do want both of your guys' input on this, but let's start with you, Erika, about where you draw inspiration because you developed the menu, helped develop it at least. Yeah. Where do you draw inspiration from? Because I talk to a lot of musicians on here, and I always ask them, where they get their, how they create music when they write it. It's obviously you're getting ideas from somewhere. You don't really know where they come from, but you're expressing it out in some way. So I'm just wondering if you have that type of approach, or where you actually draw inspiration from when you create a cocktail.
Well, for me anyway, when I make a cocktail, I look at how the spirit is made first, because I want to make sure that all those little nuances that you get in the gin, whatever flavors I put with it are going to work.
Right.
Right now I'm doing a gin club every Monday where we feature a different gin, and I make a new cocktail every Monday, and it's always different. So the one I did this past Monday was with Benham's gin, which mint is a big flavor in that particular gin. So I did a spin on a grasshopper with orgeat, chocolate bitters, and heavy cream. So, that's one of the more simpler ones I've done, but you work with what's already with the spirit. I've done a peach basil smash with Nolettes, because peach and rose are two of the main botanicals there. So I'm inspired by the spirit first, and then I look at what flavors are going to go with the botanicals that are already there, because I don't want anything to clash. Right. And then I love punny drink names. So I'll name something punny. So like getting figgy with it.
Oh, yeah.
I did a fig gin and tonic last fall. That was fun. That was with 4 Peel, I think. There was another one, and it's escaping me, unfortunately. Oh, we did a David Bowie event this past Saturday, and we had a drink on there called Ground Control to Major Tom Collins.
Tom Collins.
Yeah, so we like to have fun with drink names as well. And that's another thing. We got inspired by David Bowie for all of those cocktails.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing I was going to ask you, if you just have like, oh, that would be a great name for a drink, and then you have to develop the recipe around that name.
I've done that.
Yeah.
I actually did that quite a lot. So when I was coming up with more of the cocktails, I didn't come up with much cocktails now, but I always would have music on. In fact, when I work out, I have my headphones on, and a lot of people do that, I realize. And yeah, I'll be listening to a song and I'll hear some lyrics and I'll be, that'd be a great name for a drink. It's like, okay, so there's a cocktail come out for our fall update to the new menu. We'd be changing out the seasonal things, taking away things that aren't so popular and replacing them. There's something called the Devil's Tattoo. That's been something I've been developing for about 2 years on and off anyway, before I finally nailed it. And that's named after a song by the Black Rebel Motorcycle Club in California. What a great name, especially for the fall and Halloween. Devil's Tattoo, great.
Right. So, can you share what's in that?
Oh yeah, it's actually very simple. Yeah. We're using rum, and we are using the Carpano Rosso. Though I might do a split with the Punta Mez. I don't want too much bitterness there, and simply if I can get them still, the smoked bacon tobacco bitters or just tobacco bitters. It's very simple. It does get a little light smoking as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, tobacco bitters, I don't think I've heard of that. So, that's got to be a strange...
Yeah, you have to order them by the mail.
Yeah.
And use sparingly. I don't like... we used to have a drink... gosh, what was it called? The one with that Pike Creek whiskey.
Oh, the Duke.
The Duke, yeah.
Okay.
That's a fantastic drink. I like that too. The Duke was what originally I was trying to make with the Devil's Tattoo, and that was named after the dude from Escape from New York.
Oh yeah,
the
Snake
Duke
Plissken or whatever.
Snake Plissken's right boy, and he did the voice for. Is he the guy who did the voice for Chef?
Isaac Hayes, or
I think it's Isaac Hayes. Yeah.
Oh really?
And so I was listening to the theme tune of bits of the movie, and I was like, all right, this is something the Duke would drink. Again, that evolved from some of my early concepts of Devil's Tattoo. And yeah, that's a smoked drink. And where the hell was I going with this?
Well,
tobacco bitters.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, they have to order the mail. They're an interesting flavor. I don't use too much. I only use 2 drops in the Duke. And yeah, they just impart the right flavor, especially with smoked drinks, tobacco, smoke. Yeah, they work together.
Does it contain like a level of nicotine in it, or no?
No, they don't. They're not. It's nothing like actual tobacco in there. I believe it's got. I mean, they've made tobacco leaf bitters before, but I don't believe so from everything that I've read when I bought them. The company that I used to use no longer makes it, but there's another one.
Okay.
So, yeah.
It's just such a crazy, that's like one of those, I would consider that, well, thinking of different cocktails, I've created different cocktails here and there, and I always thought, why isn't there more savory cocktails?
Right.
Everything's generally sweet or tart or something like that.
Well, that's something which Erika's been doing a bit more of, and especially with some of the alcohol-free cocktails we've done. But yeah, savory cocktails do exist. We've done them. We had a I'm going to say it's in English. We did a tomato gin and tonic.
Yeah.
And when I say tomato
I'm so
gin,
sad we can't get that gin anymore.
the gin actually tastes and smells like tomatoes. It it smells like Italian food.
Yeah.
It's called Mileto. We still have a little bit left, but it's one of those very rare gins now, which if you're going to buy it, you're going to be paying an arm and a leg. And that was a savory gin and tonic. We did it with a cucumber tonic.
Oh, nice.
And we did another similar offering with Grey Whale Gin, which is a coastal gin. The coastal gin is a sort of subset within the modern gin family.
Yeah, because you said the tomato flavor vodka. You said the original Bloody Mary was made with gin. So I mean, it almost makes sense. I mean, it totally makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was getting at that because of the tobacco. It just seems like something that would be savory. Is it? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, there's usually going to be a little bit of sweetness to these things. I mean,
right.
Unless you use soda, tonic's got a bit of sweetness to it. We do want to work with shrubs a little bit more. We haven't done a lot with that. Erica's been doing a little bit.
I did a tomatillo lemongrass shrub this past weekend.
Nice.
That was a lot of fun.
So if anyone doesn't know what a shrub is, it's like a vinegar.
Yeah, it's a vinegar-based additive. You can drink it straight if you want. If you like acidic things, I actually really like it with lemonade. It's really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it went into like a Thai-inspired drink from this past weekend. Yeah, it's fun. They can really change a drink. So.
Oh, for sure. It adds definitely a different layer depth to it. As far as the shrubs now, would that be like, I don't know legalities of this. Can you make your own shrub? Because I mean, that's like a fermented product, right? You know.
It's not alcoholic, so it's not like I'm not fermenting, because if fermented would be kombucha technically. Right. So yes, you can. I mean, as far as I know, you can make it.
Yeah.
Like,
I just don't know about the legalities of that.
Well, if you're making it for in-house use, that's fine. It'd be just like making a syrup.
Yeah.
Because you're not making alcohol.
Right.
And there's a number of bars when people make their own shrubs.
Yeah.
If you're making it to sell, then you have a
right. Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, and there's a couple of companies which actually that I know are local, like Popes, and they do all kinds of things for cocktails. And a shrub is something that he could potentially make.
Yeah.
I could see happening for the market.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wanted to. You did say one of your recipes over there, Erika, but I wanted to ask you like something on the menu now. Like, can we go through the menu and?
Yeah, we can go through a little bit. I mean, what do you want to know about?
Any of the new fall drinks. We went through a couple of them, right? Mm-hmm. But anything that stands out, like interesting, or
one that I want to bring back from last fall, we did. So have you had Pims before? Has anybody gotten into Pims with you? That's another thing that we do a lot of at Griffin, because it's a British liqueur. Yeah. We have a fall Pims cup that we did last year.
Explain Pims.
Yeah, Richard. Yeah. I mean, like, you're from the UK. If you want to take the lead on Pims, that'd be awesome. Then I'll talk about the cocktail. So he can talk about Pims. I'll talk about the cocktail.
Okay, so Pims is the unofficial drink of the English. Mm-hmm. It is
besides gin, right?
Yeah. Well, it's tea, of course, first, but is the official one, and gin is the other unofficial one. It is originally a gin-based liqueur. It's not overly sweet, though. I
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Pims #1 is a gin base.
Okay.
There actually used to be 6 different types of Pims. Okay. Up until like 1970 and 1960, they all were the same basic liqueur, except with a different spirit as their base.
Okay.
I don't recall all of them, but there was a tequila, there was a vodka, there was a brandy. They actually brought back the vodka. You can get that in the UK, and they have dabbled with other variations of Pims. But what it is a secret blend of different roots, herbs, and spices. And that is infused into the gin. Mm-hmm. The ABV is about 21%, I believe. And what you do with that is you simply just pour it over ice and serve it with the clear English style lemonade or ginger ale. Ginger ales are more common over here because you simply don't have English style lemonade. Mm-hmm.
What's the difference? What's English style lemonade?
Well, when you get lemonade over here, it's normally something cloudy, right?
Yeah.
Well, we have that, and that's called Victorian style in the UK.
Okay.
It's almost always fizzy, carbonated. But the English style, notable brand we are Whites is a common brand, is mostly similar to Sprite, but I don't like saying that.
Okay.
It's not lemon and lime. It is real lemons, no flavorings.
Right.
And it's just a very, very crisp lemonade. No pulp, no cloudiness. It's
so it's carbonated.
Simpler. It's carbonated, yeah. It's along the lines of a soda.
Okay, it's sweet.
Yeah, it's sweet. Trying to think, the best example, closest thing to it you're going to get is Fentimans Rose Lemonade, but you got to imagine it without the rose.
Yeah.
Fentimans do make their own sparkling lemonade, as well as a cloudy version, but they don't yet export it here or have it made and licensed in Canada.
Oh, okay.
But hopefully we'll get it at some point, because it would be cool to have that instead of using ginger ale. The ginger ale is good. The one we use is Q ginger ale, and it's a very top-notch ginger ale. But having the crisp lemonade of the Pims is my preferred way of doing it. But with the Pims, also, it's very garnish orientated too. You're going to have cut up cucumber in there. You're going to have mint, and in some cases, cut up strawberry too. It is a very big summer drink. And Diageo, who owns Pims, the Pims brand, they have put a lot of focus on Pims, and they've expanded the line to make Pims more versatile outside of summer. So there are winter variations and such, which are pretty cool. And as Erika indicated, we actually have a Pims section on our menu. And there is nobody doing that.
Yeah.
We have done Pims pop-up events, and now we've made it our beast. So we've actually got a Pims section with like 4 or 5 Pims cocktails.
Yeah.
And people can experience it. It's low ABV. Your cocktail's not going to be very strong. You can drink a couple of them. It's definitely a designated driver drink if you're going to have the one.
Right.
And it's very refreshing. There's a lot going on. It's a respectable drink.
Yeah.
And if you want, you can boost it up with a bit of gin.
So, Erika, then now let's go into the
like you said, it's become a really versatile thing. It's not just for summer. So last year we did it with Watershed's apple brandy. Watershed is from Columbus. We have all of their gins as well, but their apple brandy is wonderful. It was that Pims, a little bit of Gordon's gin, ginger ale, and then I got a cinnamon stick. It got honey syrup. There was some kind of herb. I forget which herb it was, but I think I'm going to switch it up this year because we have a wonderful herb garden now. So I'm sure I'll utilize. We grow a lot of our own botanicals in our backyard, which is so cool. Something I don't think any other bars are doing that either. So that definitely helps us to stand out. But yeah, it's a lovely, easygoing fall drink. We're going to bring that back for sure. And then he was talking about the Devil's Tattoo. I'm sure the Duke will make a resurgence in some way because that was a popular one. And then Richard makes his own hot cider, and we've already been asked about it. In June, we were asked about hot cider, so it's a very popular thing that he brings back every year.
Like during the holiday season.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They start asking about it for so long and so early, and I make it and I announce it, and I'm like, come on then, and they do show up. And when the motors start going, then we're running out.
Okay.
Because I'm the only one that makes it, and there's only so much I'll make at a time.
Yeah. What's the flavor profile on that?
Oh, hot cider. It's gonna be you're gonna have a lot of orange in it. You're gonna have a touch of clove, allspice. I prefer to use mace, so that's the outside grating of nutmeg.
Okay.
And some ginger as well. We actually use ginger beer in it now. I used to use fresh ginger, but I find that tends to sort of make a bit more of a mess, and ginger beer actually works incredibly well with it. And we'll reinforce it with bourbon or rum.
Oh, really?
That's the best way to have it. I do like it with apple brandy as well. But
we did it with the Bourbon Barrel Watershed as well last year too.
Oh yeah,
so that was good.
There was a gin variation. It's good, cool. There is an expensive French brandy called apple brandy called Calvados.
Okay,
that's really good. But with a hot cider, you're really jacking up the price there, and probably not respecting the spirit quite as well as you should, because it's great on its own.
Nice. So you mentioned mixing in bourbon or whatever. Like, how do you feel about? You said you're a Scotch gin guy, so I mean, it seems like you're probably not going to be a bourbon guy. I don't know what.
I used to drink bourbon.
Yeah.
I used to drink a heck of a lot of it. Probably too much. I will say now I have no taste for bourbon anymore.
Yeah.
I don't. If I'm going to drink something along those lines, more likely to be a rye. Okay. The bourbon scene is huge in the United States. Ohio is definitely a bourbon state.
Right.
And I feel that's where we stand out.
Yeah.
We have bourbon. We have some very good bourbon.
Right.
So everybody's covered. We take care of everybody. We take care of everybody's drinking needs. but that's just a thing, isn't it? Everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
And for us, gin's our shtick.
Yeah.
I'm not a bourbon drinker. It's true. I'm not.
Well, and I think that's what I like about your place is it is different. It's like these trends go. It's like everyone liked IPAs. And, and I remember it's with Sam Adams back in the day, and even before like the microbreweries and stuff like that. People, I think it was like I remember getting like the European beers was like the cool thing or whatever, and then IPAs, and now it's like hazy IPA, it seems, and and
milkshake
bourbon
IPA or some other weird term we're coming out with.
Yeah, and like Tito's vodka is like super annoyingly popular. And it's like I just wonder how it gets like it's got to be like we were talking about, like the TV or it's like, because if you're bartending, which I have, and it's like all of a sudden it's like things shift and it's like everyone's asking for this certain thing. I'm like, where'd this come from?
Yeah, that is how it works, and obviously money's a driving force.
Yeah.
Advertising. I mean, that's why it can be very hard for a small production facility. As I experienced with my cidery, is if you haven't got the backing dollars to sort of push your brand out there and get it into people's hands or vision.
Yeah.
It's going to be very hard. I think the way a lot of smaller places can work now, and this is definitely seen in craft beer, is the on-premise places. Right. So, my mate at Masthead, Mike, good example. They got that brew house right there, good food. That's definitely the way to do it. And then you build from there, then gradually start exporting.
Well, and it seems like you can't have enough breweries that make pizza.
It's true. Yeah. That is very, very true.
And I don't know. It's just crazy, and it's like a place like Griffin Cider House, though. It might rise and fall on, but if it stays true to what it is, you might go through the ebb and flow of getting really popular and then whatnot. But I think, I wanted to say this, like over in Europe, we don't know anything about the longevity of how long a pub can be open.
Because pubs have been there's pubs in the UK have been around since the 1300s, and they're still doing pretty much the same thing.
Yeah,
and some of them go through stages of being really, really crap and having really, really bad off cask beer.
Yeah,
Three Kings is one I went to recently. That unfortunately their cask was past the day that it should have been chucked, because cask beer has a much shorter shelf life than your regular draft.
Yeah.
But there's other times where it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And we are kind of doing that with our bar. We are maintaining what we do. We have a cider focus, and we have a gin focus, and we're keeping with it. We are known as a place you go to get craft cider and actually know what it is you're drinking. Yeah. People cider, who drinks that or who knows what that is? It's just apple and shit. It's like, well, then you really know nothing at all, do you?
Yeah.
There's a whole world out there, and I was probably one of the first people really educating the masses about cider with my first company, and actually now the main guy doing it actually went to the same school as me when I was a little boy. Mm-hmm. His name is Gabe Cook. He actually flies around the world, talking about cider and bring it into focus so people actually know what it is. I used to do something called the World Tour of Cider, where I teach people about what cider is and different styles, and we carry a lot of different styles.
Yeah.
So people realize, well, shit, it isn't stuff that tastes like apple pucker.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the cheap stuff you buy is pretty much flavoring. It's very quickly made and has a flavoring added. It's made from concentrates, predominantly from China, and flavorings predominantly from China. It's not a product that's made just like wine.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be. Real cider is made like wine and aged, and it goes through several different types of fermentation.
Okay.
Develops, and people know. They know that if they want to try real cider, they want to try the real stuff. Or if they want to try some stuff which is entry-level kid stuff, then definitely come to see us. We'll tell you all about how they're different, why.
So
Same with gin too.
I just had somebody just yesterday, and he brought over a bottle of mead. And there's a meadery down southern Ohio somewhere, south of Massillon somewhere. I didn't know where it was, but he brought over the mead, and would you say mead, because it kind of tasted like a wine, but it's like a honey wine, or but would you say it's more of a beer, or I don't know? Do you know anything about it?
Yeah, that's one of those sort of anomalies. I think the state has a problem with actually classifying it too, because a wine is of course made from fermented fruit juice,
right?
Fruit. Mead isn't made from fruit,
right?
It's made from honey. It is closer to a wine. It's in the sense that the way I describe it is cold fermented.
Right.
Beer, you have to cook stuff,
right,
before you ferment it. Whereas mead is honey and water, and really that's all you really need.
Oh, is that right?
Basic mead. Oh yeah, and you ferment it, and you have to add nutrients, otherwise it's gonna be a very, very slow process. And mead making is a slow process.
Yeah.
I've made mead before. It's my personal consumption, and I wanted my alcohol quick, so I did add nutrients. Because as much as honey is sweet, it doesn't have a lot of other stuff in it.
Mm-hmm. So you wouldn't compare that to a cider at all?
I would, because wine.
Really, I wouldn't.
Wine and cider are made the same way. It's a different fruit.
Right.
And it's that cold fermentation is where I'd compare it.
Okay.
You're basically getting your ingredients together, adding yeast and letting it go.
Yeah.
And then you're perfecting it and crafting it, and then aging it, and that's where you're going to be doing little tests and things, and maybe blending. I used to blend my ciders to get the right note.
Okay.
And I was the only one that could do that, of course, back in the day at my place. And wine and cider, you're crushing a fruit, getting the juice. Usually there's no water added. Some companies might do that. I wouldn't ever.
Yeah.
And then you're fermenting it, and there you go. You're adding yeast and letting it go. That's how it's similar to mead, but there is no fruit, obviously. You can make, I think they're called melomels. I quite remember the true terms. I was never a true mead maker. I just dabbled once.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're just called fruit meads, where they do add fruit juice with the honey. Okay. And that's good because you're supplying a lot more nutrients.
This was a blood orange.
There you go.
Mead. Yeah.
I don't know the company, if they maybe added the orange afterwards, or if that was part of the ferment.
Yeah.
But that's how it's similar. Now with beer, you're getting your grain, you're grinding things down. You're going to get that wet. You're going to roast it. Add all the other bits and pieces. Pull off the liquid once you, I believe. So that's how I've made beer, apart from some homebrew kits. And that gets fermented.
Okay.
So there's a cooking process, where there's no cooking process in wine or mead. I think that's why it falls under the wine category when it comes to licensing,
right?
Like cider does.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I never really thought about that, and it makes me wonder why they actually do cook. And I don't want to keep you guys too long. I know you guys got things to do, but I just wanted to real quick go into what it is you like about Scotch, and if there's any interesting Scotch bottles that you have.
Oh, well, interesting Scotch. I'll answer first, if I can say it correctly. My if I can find it, which is seldom. I like Kilholman.
Okay.
Which is something that one of my former managers introduced me to. It's an Islay Scotch, so it's going to be quite smoky and peaty, and it's got an incredibly good deep flavour.
Yeah.
Yet I believe it's quite a young Scotch. They don't put the age on the label. Mm-hmm. What they do is when they make their Scotch, they take the very best cuts from the still, as they call it, the heart of the hearts or something. I'm no distiller, so I just know the terms that they say.
Right.
And you get a very nice, smooth Scotch. It's quite lightly coloured, quite a light straw colour. It's picked up like hardly anything from a barrel. It goes in a barrel, but not for very long.
Sure.
From what I gather, they don't tell you how long.
No.
Oh no, they don't tell you. Unless it's one of their specials.
Well, because Scotch is generally better blended, or single malt, or I don't know.
That's all subjective again. There's several types of Scotch you can get. You can get Islay, you get Highland, you get Island, Speyside. You get blended. There used to be something called Campbelltown, which I hear might be making resurgence as a style. That's truly defined. That actually comes from Campbelltown area. And then like I think I said blended already. There's some different distinct styles for sure. Islay is the most distinct because of the smokiness. And I really enjoy it because I like the depth of flavor. I do. I like those bold flavors that stand out, and a little bit of ice just really takes it back.
When I
nose involvement.
Right. Yeah. When I first had Scotch, I thought, I said it tasted like a dirty ashtray.
Yeah, you had an Ireland, didn't you? Yeah. Some people say Band-Aid.
Yeah. Well, I could see that. And, I said, that and cigars is, that's going to be something when I'm like old and gray. I'm getting gray and old, and surprisingly enough, I do enjoy, I've started, because I don't smoke or anything, but I do enjoy cigar. I think there's something intriguing about the flavor. And now with Scotch, I think there's similar things going on with profiles, I think, with a really good cigar and a really good Scotch. And I think that's why they go good together, would you say? Do you smoke cigars? I
actually do, yeah.
I was an old man before my time.
Yeah.
So I started drinking Scotch and smoking pipe and smoking cigars at a much younger age.
Okay.
Now. I was definitely the ball at university that would do that. They'd be all drinking their, essentially what's a vodka cranberry type thing back in the day, and there was me going for Scotch. Unless I went to a nightclub, then I got absolutely trashed from whatever was available. But I would smoke a pipe, and or I'd have a cigar, because they just go together. The smokiness, the bold flavors again, and of course that's fitting for me, as a guy. And I think it's that combination that just briefly mentioned already of nose involvement with the actual taste buds too. Working them together, and especially with the Scotch. I mean, when you're having an Islay, you get that aroma before it even goes into your mouth, and it's just it's all working together for a flavor explosion in your mouth.
I just thought, what a Godfather is, right? It's what is it, Di Serono and Scotch or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And I was just thinking, just that tobacco bitters would probably be really good. And I don't know. I'm just assuming that's
I could see that working together. Yeah, with Di Serono, I mean, a bit of almond would probably be pretty nice. Actually.
Yeah, but a Scotch drinker would say ruining. You don't see too many Scotch drinks.
There's a few, but
like Silver Bullet, I think it's one.
Blood and Sand.
Blood and Sand is very good. I think also it's not just about the flavors, but also the style, the way you're doing it. So sort of describing that drink, the Duke. This would be a drink that he would drink, and you'd be drinking that stuff fast.
Yeah,
you'd be taking your time, be relaxing, looking cool.
Yeah,
maybe by yourself. Maybe have a paper, maybe just being enjoying the piece. Yeah. And with the cigar and Scotch, those two match up really well. And you're taking your time. You're not smoking like a cigarette, which you could essentially just pull on tight enough and it's gone. Yeah. No, you're taking your time. You may even put the cigar down. Yeah. And after doing whatever it is, you may have maybe reading a book of rice or something. Then pick it back up and light again, and just something about living, even killing your lungs.
Hey, we're all gonna die sometime. All right, well, I don't want to keep you guys any longer. I just want to say thank you so much for stopping by. If there's anything you guys felt like you needed to get off your chest, I'd appreciate that right now. I don't know. It doesn't.
I'm good. Thank you so much for having us. This was really cool.
Yeah, no, it's fun. Yeah, I just meeting Richard and just have you're very you're cordial, and you're when you go to the bar, you're very inviting. even though you haven't been there, I guess. But I'm sure Erika is very inviting. So I think everybody should go check out Griffin Cider House in Lakewood. Again, thanks guys for stopping by.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. SUB-CLE, we're out.